Okay, without further ado, this is music and arts in education. One of the fundamental elements that has been going on and discussed throughout the whole of these 3 days. And I believe it must be put up there in all of the important elements that any artist, musicians be, or any other art form artists need to really give very much importance. And also the powers to be as well. We shouldn't really minimize that. I'm Tomor Kokona, creative industries coach. I'm a choreographer by profession. Also, I manage artists, and we manage, together with Mariela, we manage a music academy. We have roughly about 1,500 students every week, and from very early age, from 4 years old up to any, there is no limit with age. So I will go around, just pick up the microphone. Please keep it very short, like 30 seconds, introducing yourself, and then I've got a series of questions. Is that okay with everybody? So instead of everybody picking up the microphone and talking about themselves, we're going to use this as a trampoline for the audiences to get to know us, and then I have the questions. So hopefully it's going to be interesting. Okay.
Hi, I'm Klodeta. I'm a music educator. I run a private music and theater school here in Tirana with the oldest. And if you hear the noise, those are my students. And I'm very passionate about education and accessibility. That was under 30.
Okay, my name's David Cummins. I'm a lecturer at university back in Manchester in England. I teach a BA music production course where I teach the professional development and career focus modules.
Hello everybody, I'm Mikaela Minga. I'm a research scholar at the Institute of Anthropology here in Tirana, and also guest professor at the University of Arts, where I teach film music, multimedia, and popular music studies.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Craig Burgess. I'm a course lead at DBS Institute in Manchester, where I'm also a senior lecturer working on an electronic music production course. I also run my own company called One Stop Podcast, where we create podcasts for other people and also teach people how to create their own podcasts.
Thank you. My name is Mariela Cingo. I am a pianist, as in performer. I am also a music educator. And I'm also a mother and also a woman. So my love is classically trained, but love anything that is music.
Thank you very much. Wow, that was fantastic. Less than 30 seconds, everyone. So I think it's going to be interesting. And I think we have a very interesting mix of people from different fields of life. So I prepared a few questions. So the first question for me would be for every member of the panel. Again, keep it succinct and clear, speak your mind. That's what counts here. What is your broad understanding of music and arts in education? So just give us a broad understanding. So the audiences will really get a gist, an idea, what is each one of ours understanding of the music in education. Thank you.
Should I go first since I have the mic? Okay. So first of all, music for me, I wanted to understand the word. It comes from the word muse, as in the muses, things that inspire us. So something divine that came from the gods. And it's a language that we use because we cannot use words to express what we feel. Therefore, we have to put it into music. So it's divine inspiration. Music in education, completely different thing, because people then try to categorize it, to compartmentalize it, they try to measure performance, and so on and so on. But for me, music is basically a language that starts since we're this little, and then we have it with us throughout our lives. All of us can sing, all of us can talk. Whether we learn to play an instrument or not, it's a different story. How we understand the music, how we interpret the feelings, those are things that hopefully we explore in music education. But the aim, in my understanding, for those things should be to help us understand history, to help us understand ourselves, our feelings, and to help us express who we are and what we want.
Thank you, Mariela. I'd like to echo a lot of Mariela's points there, really. I see music as a very emotional storytelling tool, and it allows students to really tell their own story and use their voice as a tool within society, really. As you mentioned, from a historical context, a cultural context, and a societal context, it allows students to really navigate the different opportunities that are available to them out there in the broader world. And I mainly work within music production, so there's elements of technology within that as well, and really allowing students to find their own niche and to go on their own journey and be a hero in their own story and trajectory as well.
Well, since I come from the academic world, I would quote a researcher like John Blacking, who says that music is a humanly organized sound, and the human dimension is something very important in teaching music to all those that are interested and are talented. So it's very important for me to combine on one level the systematic knowledge of music, with which I mean not only music as sound, but also music as culture, music as context, both historical and contemporary. And then music as practice, the practice of playing music, of singing, the practice of coming together through music, and what does that mean in terms of experience, in terms of getting better and improving yourself. And finally, I think that music education means also working hard. So you have to understand that from the very first moment, and as a teacher, find the ways to make also the pupils understand that thing in the best way possible.
Thank you. I think for me, I want to. The talk is about music and art and education, and I've worked as a designer, photographer, illustrator, and a musician and a music producer. And the thing that I think about music education, it starts when you're down here, you're tiny. You grow up with music, and it becomes part of the way you live. Like, you can't not do. Everybody listens to music. And then, as you grow up, Craig and I, we worked at the same places in Manchester, and we get these young people who are really raw, and they want to express themselves through their creativity. And music and art education, to me, is bringing out that creativity. Letting these young people develop their own ways of expressing this creativity, whether it's through creative music, whether it's through some visual art, or whether it's some combination of the two. It's our job as educators, I think, to bring out the creativity, but it's not for us to tell them what to do. It's for them to find it for themselves.
Thank you, David. So I'll just keep going with my stand. So accessibility to music broadens everything. Like right now, the kids are playing in there, and many of them, they don't know each other. But music can bring you together to play and to enjoy it. It's another language that everybody speaks. And I've seen it. I might have not seen it in sports when somebody it's not as good player as the others, but I've seen it in music that everybody's accepted and they do jam. And this gives you an opportunity to feel included. And it's a great boost, and it's a great experience. And what are you going to talk about later? That's what you're going to talk about.
That's wonderful. Such a food for thought from everyone. Now, everybody is talking, especially the theme is music and art in education. However, we need to really sort out the concept of education. What does everyone again understand with the word in education? Because the concept of education is the state education, private education with a teacher and so on. How about life education? How about practice? As artists and as teachers, and I personally believe that an artist is mostly made on stage when they practice, as these kids are practicing, where they mingle with other people. But of course, we also need the structure, we need education, we need mentors, and so on. So the question is very simple. Can everyone, anyone here explore the idea of education, and what does it mean to you? So what are the various layers that the education might have? Home education, mama education, sibling education, teacher education, so, practice education, sibling or also friends education. So what does it mean to each one of you?
So I will keep it short every time. I still got like the 30 seconds. You talked about the structure before, and what I really had the idea right now. I see myself as an educator. I do teach like kids and adults as a bridge. I make myself a bridge. Like you want to go to the other side, I'll be the bridge. And so I do all these structures, and it's up to the student, up to you to walk. And I'll build again and again, and for each one it's different. I cannot just have the same bridge for everyone. Yeah. To Tirana thinking, I think with all these buildings. But yeah, something that I've talked with my colleague many times here. They're like, is there a method? There is not a method. There is, everyone is unique and our approach is unique, and we like to do it, and that's why we're doing it with love, apparently. Thank you.
So for me, education's not about going to university. It's not about going to school. It's about, for somebody like me, I'm older than all the other panel, older than some of them put together. Right? And so for me, it's about... Mariela said to me, age is the number of years you've lived. It's nothing else. And this is how people look at it in Albania. But to me, the real joy about getting older is the experience that you have. You have all these experiences in your life, and if education for me is passing that experience on, it's not about teaching people, and maybe in academia it's different, because you're teaching people different concepts, but in the creative world, it's about this, I have these experiences that I can kind of relate to what you want to do because I've done these things. Craig and I were talking earlier because I did the course that Craig taught at university as a mature student. I was over 60 before I even started. And the joy for me was working with these young people and passing my experience on to them, even though I was a student, whilst I was learning some of the other things that I was there to do. So to me, really, education, it's not a formal structured thing in the creative world. It's about mentoring, it's about guidance, and it's about passing on experience.
Since I come from the university, I have to be, in some cases, conventional in the sense that the university imposes certain rules. But I will tell something from my own experience. Actually, popular music, the course I teach at the University of Arts here in Tirana, is only 10 years old. And it was very difficult to build this course because the university at the time was very much oriented towards classical training and classical music. So one of the first challenges for me was to convince somehow the people, the directors of the faculty for the importance of such course. And the other was that I didn't want it to be very, very academic in that sense, because teaching also popular music has also to deal a lot with experience. And one of the main aspects that I try to develop with the students is the listening experience, which means listening as a culture, listening in connection with where they come from, what they have listened up to that moment, listening things that they may not consider nice or beautiful, and what that does mean to them. And the other element is that I didn't want it to be a professor that only talks all the time and the others listen. So what I continuously ask from them is to raise questions. Questions from what they read, and also questions from what they have experienced in music, let's say beyond university and beyond schooling. And these are the most intriguing parts in our classes, because you see how the experience outside the university is much more connected with popular music. They also tend to work in the popular music field in comparison with the university. So this is how I have approached my own experience of education. I didn't stay in the 30 seconds, so I apologize.
No, 30 seconds was only at the beginning. Now it's, explore. The audience and us, we want to hear your opinion, actually. So be free.
Thank you. I think, I really do agree with that education is a multifaceted concept. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I think it really just fits into this idea of lifelong learning. As we know, life doesn't just go in this nice straight line. It goes back on itself, and sometimes we come to dead ends, and sometimes we just don't know what we just don't know. And I think I found myself in my own role as an educator to help students to join the dots within that. What do you already know? What can we build upon? How can we take your own passions and intrinsic interests and build that into a career pathway? And as I mentioned, helping students on their own unique learning journey as part of that. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, whether that's from Albania or the UK, or even different contexts in terms of family and societal aspects of that as well. And just helping to join those dots up. You can learn a lot now just online by learning and looking at videos on YouTube, for example. But you don't know where the gaps are in your knowledge. And I see a lot of my role within the university in a more organised concept for that is to help provide them barriers to bounce off and to bounce them ideas, but to also encourage students along their own unique journey through the ideas that they have to get to where they want to go. I've found a lot of students will join up for music production courses that I've lectured on, and they wasn't aware of things like sound design and how music can be linked to picture and how music engages and immerses a gamer in a game experience, for example, and how that immersion can be an emotional tool, and as I mentioned, that storytelling tool. And I think as an educator, it's part of my role to try and open up these opportunities and open students' eyes to what is available. It's not always just about creating your own music, although that's a pathway that you can go down, but there's so many different opportunities working in creative fields and really deciding on what your own creative journey and pathway is through that. And my sort of approach is, as you mentioned, building bridges for them and that scaffolded learning, structuring for them. Everybody has a different potential learning style, and my job is to really try to help guide people through that process, but to allow them to guide themselves as well through it and give them a good pat on the back when they need it and stuff, and to give them encouragement, or to actually say, well, actually, maybe you might be better approaching it from a different angle overall as well. Thank you.
Thank you. For me, the word education at first was a super scary word, because I immediately linked it with academia, and that scared me personally. It's only as I grew up, it's only as I studied more, it's only as I became a parent that I realized education is actually, yes, it's linked with academia, but that's as a byproduct. But it starts with actually getting to know yourself, getting to understand yourself, like David said, having experiences, and then being able, without you realizing, to use those experiences as a way to connect with other people. In Albania, the words, we don't have different words for teach and learn. And I find that so meaningful. We have the same word for whether we are teaching or whether we are learning. And I love that because actually, as you are teaching, you are learning yourself. Because it's the process of connecting with your students or with the children or with the little ones. As parents, I'm going to speak from the perspective of music because that's my field. The moment your baby is born, it comes instinctively that you want to sing a lullaby. You want to sing them to sleep. So whilst many might think that's not education, it is, because you are in a way teaching them these songs, or you're teaching them these words, or you're teaching them a love language. I don't know. And then as they grow up, and we have an academy, like Tomar said, Stage Talent, where we teach little or very big ones. And I hate the word teach. In fact, we made it our mission to say, if you think we are here to teach, piano, you are wrong. Actually, we are here to help you discover yourself, to shape your character, and then to be the best you can be, to excel. Because you can't do that unless you know what you want, unless you know who you are, and you won't be able to do those things unless you try. So the fact that they learn to read notes, or that they can play scales and arpeggios, and I don't know, that's just as a byproduct. Of course that's going to happen in the process, but number one is establishing those communication lines, and like you said, is finding out what everyone's learning style is. I love talking, but I have kids that are so shy, and the only way to connect with them is through non-verbal games. Physical games for some of them, visual games for some others, and it's like you said, so every experience is so different. So for me, education is, first of all, keep learning yourself, because we never stop learning. Being able to leave our beliefs so whatever my moral values are, I try so hard to stand by them, because even if I'm sure that there are people out there that I don't know, but they might be seeing me and using me as an example, and without realizing I'm teaching them. So I think it's really important to have a moral compass, to have values that you live by, and then hopefully by shaping yourself, you can learn to connect better with others and to help shape others.
Wow, so I think we got a wealth of suggestions and description about what education means. For example, we had Zonia Buzi, who said, I'm a bridge, I provide this opportunity. So education is a bridge. Then we have somebody from the Manchester University, or from Manchester, who says, in fact, experience coming out there and also being sort of a mentor for young people is the value in education. And then we have another person says, hey, if we go to academic studies, yes, of course there are structures. However, I make sure that I'm not preaching. I'm not really pointing out to say to the students, do this and that. And we have another person here in the panel who says, for me, is showing the opportunities to the young people, showing to the students, not really coming with prejudged ideas, but giving them the chance where they can explore themselves, because not everybody learns in the same way. And then we have another example here who says, we learn not only by the organized academic ways, but also as humans, we are geared to learn. And what is the learning? Through art, through expression, through lullabies. So I just wanted to dispel the myth of education, as a duty only to the schools. So I think we sort of tried to answer this question. So my next provocation, let's say, is that what are the barriers? What are the barriers into learning? And again, without us planning, the conversation has gone from music to all of the forms of arts. So, yes, stick with the music, use the music as the springboard, but let's talk about arts education. So what are some of the barriers and what are some of the opportunities? Because there is no point. Quite often we just talk about, I haven't got this, this is difficult and so on. But we, as experts in the industry, need to also, for each challenge, we need to really give one or two opportunities. So let's go back again and take the floor.
Okay. If we keep looking for barriers, guess what? We're going to find them. And there's going to be so many. And the more we look, the more we're going to find, right? So what I would say is, from an educational, especially for music, if you're talking about learning how to play an instrument, unfortunately, money is one of those, or underfunding, or not being funded enough. It's great to be able to have an opportunity. I was lucky enough, because I was born in Albania and I studied here, and my music education was free, was funded by the state, and I absolutely loved it all. And I was so sad when I went to England, when I went to UK, to see that it's an elitist thing, that only people that have the money, that can afford it, they're the only ones that can do it. That's not to say that other people don't have access at all, but they don't have equal access. So maybe they can only have group lessons because there's the only ones that they can afford. Maybe they can only have it for a year, so there's no continuity. Whereas I was lucky enough that I could have one-to-one lessons 3 times a week with my piano teacher. We did music theory, we did choir, we did orchestras. You know, there was so much going on musically, and I just took that for granted. But now I realize how lucky I was. So certainly funding, money, and trying to monetize this whole process is a barrier. But I would also say that there are also opportunities. If you would allow me, I wanted to tell the story that I watched this documentary about this man in Africa who worked with lions and tigers. And he had to go and feed the lionesses, and they were in season. So the male lions were very protective of these lionesses. They wouldn't let anyone get near them, anything. And they were not eating. So he was saying, I have to make sure these lionesses are fed. But the lions could kill him, and he had to go in there with nothing. And everyone was saying, you are mad. You can't go in there. What are you doing? They said, I've got something very important, you know, very powerful. And they said, what's this thing you've got? He said, I've got my voice. So he went literally into the lion's den with food so he could feed the lions and the lionesses mainly. And he only used his voice. So the whole time he kept talking to the lions, he was within the same pace, the same rhythm. He didn't go faster or slower, and the same sort of soothing pitch, saying, yeah, you're a good boy, you know I'm your friend, da 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 da. He was literally like hypnotizing these lions, and they didn't attack him. So what does that tell us? He didn't need to have a degree in music to be able to use that to his own thing. So that's what I mean by barriers are many, but if we really, really want to learn, I think we will all be able to find a way.
So may I just add there is a real case study. She's actually a really famous pop singer in Albania, in UK. And she started piano lessons with Mariela and then discovered that she had a fantastic voice. Her mother was a single mother with 2 children, didn't have money for her to go into a private school. So they came to Mariela and said, look, her chances are gone. We can't take her to private school. Because all private schools need to, you fulfill the criteria by paying money, but also there are a few places where you can go for free if you are super, super, super talented. And guess what happened? But you need to have the three things. So she had the piano, and Mariela said, okay, we're going to add the voice as well. So the young lady and the instrument as an instrument. So practically she went to a private school, thousands of pounds to pay, she didn't have to pay. So the opportunities are there, but again, I think that the need of a mentor and also people who know a little bit is really important. Thank you.
I echo everything that's been said there, actually. I enjoyed that story. That was a great story, yeah. I think it reinforces some of my own thoughts as well on that it's confidence. A barrier to learning, a big barrier to learning can be people's confidence, and our roles as mentors and educators is very much about seeing the person for who they are, where they are, and their personal circumstance, and being able to help to draw that out of them and see themselves as what they actually are themselves and the talent they have. A big thing that I'm always keen to sort of impress upon my students is their own purpose and sort of why. And you know, if you know why you're doing something, then it makes it a lot easier to create effective aims and objectives for yourselves and to guide yourself through that process. And I think one of my roles as an educator, that I've been an educator for nearly 20 years now, and I've worked teaching music technology, music live performance from 5-year-olds all the way up to Dave, basically. And as part of that, everybody's got the different experiences, where they're coming from. That, you know, some people are starting up here, some people are starting down there, and it's like I said before, my role is to support, to help them on that learning journey, and to build that confidence up so that they feel, especially within, you know, the music industry in particular, which is quite a competitive space within its own, how you can navigate that process and just to believe in yourself as well. It's such a powerful tool, really, to encourage someone and to see the value and intrinsic value that they have, and that they have a voice and something that they bring to the table that's unique to them. And I think that sometimes becomes a barrier with people where they just don't see it themselves. You know, it's like when you're trying to, you know, when I came here, I had to write a small segment about me and what it is that I do. And it's very difficult, that self-introspection sometimes, and that, you know, seeing yourself of what you are. Everybody thinks they know who they are, but people see you as something different, and that can be something big and can be the sort of springboard to where you need to go to next. Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I will be more concrete, talking a little bit about the Albanian reality. Of course, funding is really important. Mariela, of course, said that we had, especially the people of the 80s generation, had public music education, and they did not have to pay. But after the 90s, there was a need for more careful state policies, cultural policies, in terms of the sustainment for all the people that were into the music education field. And I'm not talking only about the music schools, but also for other, let's say, more public initiatives taken from different individuals. Like here we have Klodi, who I'm sure she has a lot, she doesn't speak, but I am sure that she has a lot of sacrifices of building her own Akademia, and it's not always the policies, the state policies are not always very careful in following the real needs of who works in the field of music education in Albania. Funding also from the local government for creating what I think it's very necessary, music communities, which means not only people who educate in music, but people who get together for playing music and for being together through music. That's one of the elements that I see as very problematic in Albania.
So I think one of the biggest barriers in education, Craig kind of touched on it almost when he said confidence, but I think it's fear. It's fear of laying yourself bare as a creative person and exposing yourself in a way like that in most other fields you don't do. So as a musician or as an artist or just as a creative, you expose yourself and you lay your soul out there, and sometimes people say, that's so shit, And if you haven't got the confidence to kind of accept that, and it is really hard to when you're 18, you don't have that confidence. And the one person can say, oh, that's really rubbish. You're destroyed for 12 months or 10 years. So that, to me, is a massive barrier. And I see that in the students at university all the time. But that's in a general sense. I think I wanted to just touch on something that I think probably is very true in Albania. You said this before, and I'm in just what you were saying then as well. Right? But in setting your course up, popular music, you've encountered a lot of barriers. It took a lot of time. Because decision makers, I think, are a barrier. Because they're not on the same wavelength as you. You're a creative. Decision makers aren't creative. They think about funding. They think about, oh, actually, we're not going to have a music production course because what's the point? Because they don't know anything about it. And getting over those barriers in education, I think, is absolutely massive. And you can see that here, right? Because a lot of the music education in here is geared towards classical music. Our last panel where we're talking about folk music, that's an intrinsic part of society here. Modern music, oh no. So having mentorship schemes because, say, to run a festival like this, you're going to have to bring audio engineers from Italy or from Germany. Let young people work. Let them shadow the front of house engineers here. If you can't have a course, have some mentorship schemes. Put some grassroots programs in place. That's, for me, is a kind of massive part of when it's difficult to get formal education. It's much easier to actually get together in the community and put a grassroots project together with other musicians, because there's so many fantastic musicians here in Albania, and I've worked with a lot of them, and it's really, really rewarding. So I kind of think that we don't have to wait for the decision makers, because they are a big barrier. It's something that musicians and engineers and everybody, they can take it upon themselves to organize, and then it takes that barrier away, and I think that's really important.
Hi. So I usually follow the UK, what they do for the schools, like music education in schools, and I'm very jealous. And in Albania, that's a barrier. We don't value music education, and I'm not talking about the funding in here, because that can be done with YouTube now, easy. But what I see as a barrier are teachers. Educating teachers, training the teachers, and having that continuous training that we always need. A good thing about COVID was that I got to check all these online classes for free, and that was amazing. Until it stopped, because we got enough of Zoom. But what I see, of course, funding is fundamental. And what I see happening in Albania, everything happens in this city. Every fund, it's in this city, and all the opportunities, the other cities, they don't have anything. So I can tell you stories of what we've done in my school, and this hidden scholarship that we do when we learn about what's going on. But what is more important, you have to be a teacher to know what's going on. And for me, the importance is educating the teachers, training them, and bringing back the respect. Because we're working with a generation that's too much into fast food kind of living. Parents want their kids to come on stage, and we don't want that. We want them to take the walk. Take the walk with their own pace. I don't so there are many barriers into that, but a barrier into a parent, or many parents thinking that, it's because they don't have the access to see what's going on, and this doesn't happen in Albania. We don't really have here shows, educating shows for kids, or everything happens in Tirana, walking distance from here. So that's so that's a big problem, and things will change. As much as we value teachers, I believe things will change. That's all we can do.
I think Mariela wants to add something on it, but before I pass it to you, if you don't mind, when I was 10 years old, I was studying classical ballet, and this is my life story, it's a true story. On my first ever piano lesson, I was beaten up. That's child abuse, and because the teacher didn't have the right training, she slapped me on my first day of piano lesson. So I got that handicap. Of course, later on I overcame it and so on. So the importance of training teachers, and in the UK, that's number one priority. Training teachers, because I wanted to ask, Claudie, I wanted to ask you a question about anthropology and psychology as well. Because what I'm learning here, what we are hearing, is that we have got this most important role of raising a human being. And if you damage with, as you said, Craig, with one slur, with one down word, with not being prepared, with really not showing that understanding that you are here to build your character, to build your resilience, then guess what is going to be happening when that person who's 3, 4, 5 years old grows up? I'm not good enough. I can't do things. And in fact, they might be, as we've noticed, they are very talented, but the teaching has been wrong. So they say, oh, I'm rubbish in music. But in fact, was the teaching methodology. So I don't know if you agree with it. You know what I'm saying? I see it even today, and please, this is recorded. I see it today in Albanian schools. I don't want to mention names, but I'm prepared to even mention names here. I see it today where the communist system is still preaching to the children so they can memorize instead of being themselves. That's why this panel is so important. Art and music and education. Be yourself instead of you repeat back what I told you. So I had this rant to say, but I hope it was useful. Mariela.
Thank you. I wanted to add the word expectations. I think there are many good things in the way that we teach in Albania, and there are many great things the way that we are taught in England. None of the countries is perfect. Education is not perfect, not in Italy, not in Europe, not in China, not anywhere, because no, I know that you agree. I just feel like I should say that because I had this vision when I went to UK that everything was going to be perfect there because you guys have had democracy for so long. In fact, last time you were invaded was what, 1066? So you must be great. And you know what? It wasn't great. There was many things to be desired. So I want to bring the word expectation as a barrier. And what do I mean by that? Expectations of the parents. This business-like mentality. I'm paying this much money, I want to see results. Yeah, but how do you measure results? Like you said, thank you so much for saying that. You're like, we want to go at the children's pace. This child, you might see in quotes, no progress for 1 year. Then all of a sudden they go, bam. Because how you measure progress is not how we as teachers measure progress. We know that progress does not go up like this. It goes up, it goes down, it stays like that. And there's a lot of things. And a lot of parents, I think, have this expectation of, I want my child to play Futureworks in 6 months. And they think that because their kid can play that they're somehow a good musician. Guess what? They're not. You can teach a parrot, you can teach a monkey to do things. That doesn't mean that they actually understand the music or understand the feelings or the history, yeah, absolutely, that came with it. So I think we have, as teachers, I feel we have a huge job to do with educating the parents, you know, and bringing them out of this mentality of, I paid money. Well, you can't get everything with money, you know what? And this is about feelings and less consumeratic society and consumeristic. Thank you, I lost the word. And the second thing was, so one was the parents, the other one was the teachers, like you said. The last one is the children, which is finding out what they want from this. And you know what? As long as they can communicate, I think this is the one thing, music is the one thing, or art, that it's not black and white, it's not right or wrong. They can just be themselves, and that's good enough, you know? Because everyone keeps pouring money into maths. And it's like, no one at school is talking about feelings. No one at school is teaching us how to communicate with each other, how to interact. Like in Albania, I'm sure you notice people stare. They look at you. And when I went to England, I was like, why don't they look me in the eye? Why don't they kiss me? Why don't they hug me? What's wrong with these people, you know? But these are the things I feel we should be teaching in education. It's nothing to do with music or art, but as musicians, as artists, we notice these things more because we are in touch with our emotions, in touch with feelings more. So sorry, say what you want to say.
Yeah, you know, I'll just add like one thing to the first question. I think we forgot education is trust. Trust between the teacher and the student, trust of the, vice versa. That's it. So the moment, when you said like, oh, it's been a year, it's not working out, we're building the trust. Like, just wait, please, people, wait. Like everything is so fast right now, but it'll be okay.
When we're talking about barriers, I think. And this is not a barrier that everybody experiences at the same time, but age is a barrier. Youth is a barrier. And we expect people to go, in their formal education, 18 years old, they go to university. Everybody is prepared to go to university at 18? No, of course they're not. Right? The best students that I teach, they tend to be 25. They're not 18. The ones at 18, they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to grow into, people who are going to learn to absorb the world around them. But when you're older, you're so receptive to learning. Right? And you get to my age, every day is a school day. I'm not joking. This is how I think. I never stop learning. But I suspect I didn't start learning until I was in my 20s. You know? So...
One more thing, since we're talking about barriers, sorry, it just keeps coming. Mentality, that's another huge barrier. So mentality in one country can be different from mentality in another country. There are cultures where we know they think, oh, music, oh, that's a bad thing. Degenerate people do that. We don't want to do that. And then there are other countries that can't live without music. So I also wanted to talk about the mentality and what we expect and what it means to us. I think that's also another huge barrier. And on the subject of mentality of teachers, like we now at the point that we are training teachers how to teach, because like you said, philosophy is so important. And we had a child, we have more and more children now with special needs, with autism, yes, was that going to be a question for Claudie? And you just think as a teacher, you have to find a way to connect with this child, you know? And then I heard a teacher that said, what do you mean I have to connect with them? They are here to learn, and I am here to teach them. I'm not a clown, you know, she said. I'm not a clown. And I was smiling, thinking, but nobody asked you to be a clown. And actually, I found it so funny. But yeah, she was from a, shall we say, Balkan country? Eastern European country. And then it brought me back to, this is also the mentality that we grew up with in Albania, that we had amazing teachers, but the mentality was very much, you are here to learn, so you will shut up and you do what I tell you. I'm here to teach you, you're here to learn. And there was a lot of focus on, they told you everything you did wrong, hardly ever what you did right, hardly ever a pat on the back. I love this about British culture, by the way. It was like, well done for this. I felt it was too extreme in England, and it was too extreme here, so much about finding a way. But I just wanted to bring that out there, the mentality.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to add on to this, or we can go straight to Claudia, because one of the big elements of learning in education is, first of all, as we touched, in Great Britain, there are music hubs. And I know you're going to say, please bring it here. But that's why we're here. No, to be honest, that's why we're here. British Albanian Culture and Arts wants to build these bridges between Albania and UK to export things from Albania there and import things from UK here. And music hubs are in every single city and practically in every borough. So what does a music hub do? So let's go into the solution into it. The British government has invested money, and by law, every child needs to have access to music. It's a different story how it's done, but that's magical. Where the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Education brings the kids into, of course, it's a completely different methodology from what I've seen in Albania, that the kids learn by doing instead of being told what to do. They learn by being engaged. And quite often in music lessons, they hardly touch the guitar, hardly touch the piano. Honestly, for a whole 45 minutes, they do confidence games, they do rhythm games, they do body percussion games, they play with all the instruments, and the kid goes home and they've learned the fundamentals. So music hubs, I think, powers to be, whoever is going to watch this video on YouTube and so on, please get together, get the parliament. If you really want to change this nation, start with education. If you really want to change the future youth life, go with music and arts, because that's what it is. We humans have learned this prefrontal cortex here. It's much younger than this part, and this part is directly linked with arts and culture and creativity. So that's my mission going out of there.
Yeah, I follow them. I follow this and Switzerland, which is great into doing that. I was telling Christine today, I think that what I want, it's having parks with instruments, like leave a drums in there, leave a piano, and then you'll see what having access to it without a teacher, but like what having, or like iPad with Chrome Lab, easy done. And then they go crazy, like after a week you'll see like kids are, but it's the access.
I think there's a difference. There's something to do with the mentality. If you go to any French, Spanish, because I've lived in Spain, and British schools, you would hardly see a bare wall. You go to any Albanian school today, and I challenge you to challenge me, and you'll see white wall there. Why? That's how access starts. That's how access, where children put their art there. They put their creativity, they are proud of it. And you got a few pictures there, head teachers and politicians and the president. Can you see? So the communist mentality, it's perpetuated forever, 34 years. How long is going to go? So access could be access, but it costs nothing to a school to get a drum. Where are the drums? It costs nothing to a school to get chifteli. Where are they? Why don't they really adorn the rooms, the classrooms? So this is the thing, that simple things. It starts with the child to come in and say, wow, got the guitar there hanging up. Let's pick it up one day. So that will entice the kids subliminally. It will bring the kids and the society to have music as part of their life.
I wanted to speak. No. I wanted to tell, there are teachers who do that. They are very secluded everywhere in Albania, but they are not for the social media. But there are people who do this, and because they love to do it, and also keep like the folk music alive, which is a great thing to do. But it's not in the media, because that's something else. Like nobody cares about education. I can give you, like, my sister has a famous Instagram and Facebook page, and she's been very famous. She posts, and twice a year, she will post about my school. And there's everything that is pink news gets like hundreds of thousands of likes, and my school, which is so cool, gets like 20 out. Like it's me and my staff probably. So we're running into something that's fast-paced, and we're slow-paced. But education has been there; it will be there.
I'm talking about normal schools. I'm talking about children in the kindergarten. Yeah. I'm talking about any and every primary school or secondary school or university. I'm not talking, because obviously you love it and it's your business and it's your life. That's wonderful. But what I'm saying is, for every single Albanian and every single people to have the opportunity to live with it. And I don't see it in schools, in normal schools. So I spoke a bit longer myself, but I had, Claudia, a question for you. In terms of
Mikaela.
Mikaela.
Also, we're asked to wrap up quite quickly.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up, but About the psychology and the emotional well-being of the children. What is the role of music in education? What role could it play? So this is a question for the whole panel.
Well, I think the elements can be connected. What you were saying up to now is connected with what I said about music policies and the politics about music, in the sense, because if you have a solid attention about music education, what you mentioned can happen in the schools. Regarding psychology, on the emotional level, well, this is, we could do a whole panel on that actually. But I think it's very important, especially with, for the people with special abilities. And again, this is not very easy for them to get access. As far as I know, in the last 2 years, if I'm not wrong, the National Theatre of Opera has guide. If I'm not finding the word in English. Claudie per te verbrit. I know blind. Si quhen këto pop.
Braille reading.
Braille reading for the people who cannot see, but only in the last 2 years. So you can imagine how difficult it is for all these people to get access to concerts and to the theatrical and to arts in general. Then you have people with problems, and music can be really very helpful. And again, we come to what Claudie said about teaching, about the experience and the role of teachers who are at the same time, I would not say psychologists, but who need to have a good knowledge about that. So it's also very, very important. But I stress again, music policies are very important for improving the situation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Craig, you want to say anything as a final thought on education? Mariela? Yes.
Final thoughts on education, I would say, advice for all of you, if you're brothers, if you're cousins, if you're parents, please stop putting young children under pressure. Let them be who they are. Let them learn by exploring, and don't force them into being something else. Just let them find their way. Those are my final thoughts on education.
Okay, well, thank you very much to all the panelists. Give them a hand. It's been really interesting conversation. And let's keep this conversation out there. The message is clear. If you really want to have a strong nation, start with education. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomo.
Thank you.